Okay, this is part 2. Let's continue on to number 9. So we have a trinomial. Check for a GCF. There is not one. Nothing goes into these. So we're going to go to the x and see what multiplies to a times c. What multiplies to negative 6x squared and adds to the basement negative 5x. Remember, this is a, this is b, this is c. So on the top is always a times c, the bottom is always b. And we'll come up with what two numbers multiply negative 6, add to negative 5, and we'll, let's see here, probably 6x and a 1x, and make that negative, so those multiply to negative 6 and adds to negative 5. So we're going to have x squared minus 6x plus 1x minus 6. Just substituted the negative 5 and put negative 6 plus 1 instead, which is equal to negative 5. And factor the first two here, and we'll get just an x to come out. And here, nothing in common, so we'll just use the 1. So our answer will be x plus 1 times x minus 6. X plus 1 times x minus 6. All right, number 10. No GCF, nothing goes to 925, no common variable. So check and see two terms, check for difference of squares. So we have a 925, that kind of gives it away. So this can be written as 3x squared minus 5y squared, both perfect squares. So our answer will be one of them positive, one of them minus, both with a 3x and both with a 5y. Check to see if you can factor these further, and there's no GCF, and so we're done. Down to 11. Let's see here. Any GCF, anything going to 9, 30, and 25? Doesn't look like it. So we can say what multiplies to this? A times C. So 9 times 25 would be 225 n squared, and adds to negative 30 n, and after a little bit of work you'll have 15n both negative, adds to negative 30, multiplies to 225, and you can factor that. So we're going to use the box on this one. So some people like the box, some people don't. Just depends on what works best for you. We got 25. All right. Let's see, GCF here will be 3n. We'll get 3n on the top as well. GCF here will have, looks like 5. And a 5, but we need these to be negatives in order to make negative 15. So it looks like we have 3n minus 5 times 3n minus 5, which is a good answer. If you like, since it's just the same thing repeated, there's a shorthand for that. It's using an exponent, like that. So either one's acceptable. Number 12. Look for that GCF, 5 and 45. We get 5 comes out of both. Okay. So we have a factor of 5 and a squared minus 9. And you'll notice that this is a squared and this is 3 squared. So this factors as a difference of squares. Don't forget to bring down the 5. So we'll have an a plus 3 and an a minus 3. Check to see if these factor further. And they don't. All right, 3 is not a good number anyway. It would be finished. Let's go up to 13. Okay, so GCF, 7, 20, 12, no. They don't share a variable, so no GCF. 3 terms, so let's put this in the X and see if we can find some numbers that work. 7 times 12 is 84, and that would be p squared r squared, the 2 variables, and then it has to add to the middle. Okay, so what 2 numbers multiply to 84 and add to 20? Alright, so you might have to break down 84 to help yourself out. 84 is 2 times 42. 42 is 6 times 7. 6 is 2 times 3. So you're looking for different combinations of your primes that might multiply and then add up to 20. So I got, that's a 3. 2, 2, 3, and 7. This is a 3. 6 times 2 is 3. Okay. So after a little bit of trial and error, you'll find out that you have a 6 here. 2 times 3 is 6. And 7 times 2 is 14. So 14 plus 6 does equal 84. So we got, and it adds up to 20. So we have 14 PR and 6 PR. So this is really about perseverance. When you have bigger numbers, can you do a little bit more work to find the numbers that work instead of saying they're too big, they must be prime. So it's not automatically the case just because they're a little larger. And now we can finish this up. There's the box here as well. We got 7p squared, and then we have 14p r and 6p r and 12r squared. The GCF of the first row is 7p. GCF of the second row would be 6r. GCF here, they just both have a p in common. And GCF here will be like just 2r. So there are your 2 factors. 7p plus 6r times p plus 2r, and you can do a check to figure out if make sure that works. 14, more straightforward. Look for GCF. There's already 4 terms, so we can go right into factoring and the grouping. So GCF of the first 2 and GCF of these 2. GCF of these 2 would be 3n squared. Left over would be n plus 3. Just make sure they multiply back, and you'll be double checking, make sure it's okay. The second 2, they both have a negative and then 5. So we end up with an n plus 3. So our factors are 3n squared minus 5 and then n plus 3. Keep on going. Number 15, check for a GCF. Pretty clearly you see they're all multiples of 5, so let's take out a 5. Okay, 5 goes into 120, 24 times. Okay, so we're going to try to factor this trinomial. Just go ahead and write out your answer like this, bring down that 5, and we'll get our answer and put it in here. You just don't want to forget that 5. So what 2 numbers multiply to negative 24? Add to negative 5. You'll get, let's see here, probably an 8 and 3 combination with a negative on the 8. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. So you can keep on going there, and you'll end up with the y minus 8 and the y plus 3. Okay, just a few more. This looks like a difference of squares. There's no GCF. Okay, so Let's factor this. Remember, this is going to be 4 squared. So we got x squared plus 4 and x squared minus 4. However, even though this doesn't factor, this one does. It's another difference of squares. So we have to go one more time, just bring down the part that's a plus that we can't factor, don't forget. And now we have x plus 2 and x minus 2, because this is the same as 2 squared. Neither of these factor anymore, so that is finished. 17. No GCF or 9, 2. They don't have a u here. So what multiplies to 8u squared adds to negative 9u? Right, you'll get what? Negative 8u and negative u. So 4u squared minus 8u minus u plus 2, and GCF of the first two, 4u, u minus 2. GCF of the next two. There isn't a GCF here, but we want to take out a negative 1 just so that these two match. We want to get a u minus 2 here as well. And by taking out a negative 1, that will happen. So we get 4u minus 1 and u minus 2. Remember, all these you can do a check and verify. You don't have to take a guess. So if you didn't take out a negative 1, you could always do a check later to see if it works. And lastly, just what two numbers multiply to 16c squared, add to 8c, and you'll see you get 4c and 4c. And go through the grouping process, or the box, whatever you prefer. Through the first two, through the second two. And this is the case where you'll get the same term again. So you get c plus 4 here, but then you also get c plus 4 here. So our final answer is c plus 4 times c plus 4, okay, which is the same as c plus 4 to the second power, because there's two of them. Alright, that's the whole review. You'll notice I went at a pretty brisk pace, just kind of showing you where you could be eventually with enough practice. No hesitation on what to do on the next step. If it's 2 terms, I look for difference of squares. 3 terms, I use the x right away. If there's 4 terms, I just do the grouping or the box right away. And on every single one, always look for a GCF. Go ahead and print out as many of these as you can, as you need to, so you can do this whole review front and back, begin to end without stopping, and get 100% all by yourself with no help. And then you'll for sure be ready for the test. Good luck.